So the time is 4:59. Right now we are just having an English cuppa because we've been up since 5. We've been prepping for a half marathon last minute. So we've been going all in on the training. Today I want to talk about a few things. And I want you guys to remember, every time I do videos and every time I speak to you guys, I am speaking to the people who feel like my younger self, who feel like 20-year-old Brandon, who was full of self-doubt, who was full of anxiety, who was ambitious, didn't know where to start, would have something called paralysis by analysis, where he will get all of this information for him to take action, but it will just do the opposite effect. It will make him feel even less than what he was. He would end up entering this state of comparison, thinking they have everything, end up having a state of jealousy, then feeling like my life was gonna be over. At the time I was working in retail, and I just thought about how my life would be in 70 years or in 50 years if I didn't do anything. Being in that same position, the fear of not reaching my full potential, of being average, absolutely scared me. And I said, for something to change, something must change. What you are not changing, what you are not changing, you are choosing. And that really got to me, because many people want change. Many people want to get in shape. Many people want to be rich. Many people want things, but they don't actually want it. And I realized this, I wanted things, but I didn't actually want it. I was comfortable where I was. The second I put enough pressure on myself and faced the truth and realized that that's what was gonna be of me, my life was gonna be like that if I didn't do anything about it. This is the person I'm making this video for. If you don't know where to start, I want you to understand that you need to start by becoming your best version. And I didn't understand what being your best version is. Look, for you to do anything in life, you will need you. The only thing that will stop you from getting the things that you want will be you, will be the way that you think. Understand, whenever you think you can do something, you end up entering the state of doubt, then you stop taking action. These things that you want is a result, this result that you want is a byproduct of actions that build up to give you this result. An athlete wasn't born an athlete. He trained, he watched his macros, and then he ended up becoming an athlete. So in reality, what you want is the actions that create a result. So you have to be a person of action, a person of direction, and a person of focus. How do you do that if you're not that person? By default, I am a very lazy person. By default, I'm a very anxious person. By default, I'm a person who has no self-belief. So before, I used to see these as problems. Once you shift your perspective and view it as opportunities, that realize, if I am anxious, I have the chance to be confident. If I am weak, I have the chance to be strong. And this is why today I am strong. I am confident because I was once weak and I was once full of self-doubt. If you don't know where to start, before you can pour into anyone else's cup, you need to be able to pour into yours. How do you become your best version? You need to first have someone that you admire. And what you admire from this person is not the person, you admire their qualities, you admire their actions. I remember watching Superman in the cinema one time. This is the person that I admired, and this is the person that changed my life. Superman, I know. I remember watching Superman, and there was a scene where he came out of the water, he saved like the boat by grabbing it. One thing that I loved about Superman, and this is the thing that you admire from that person, and you're probably thinking about that person now, you admire their qualities. The qualities I admire from Superman is he was respected. And the reason I admire that so much is because I wasn't respected before. The reason I love Superman was because he was strong. I was weak. The reason I love Superman was because he was confident. I was full of self-doubt. The reason I love Superman is because he helped people. And this is something that I love doing, because whenever I felt that I was never given help, whenever I felt I was left aside, Superman done the complete opposite. And I gave people what I wanted. I would always give people help. My goal, my why, is to make sure people find their values that they don't see in themselves. I see people for who they can be, not for who they are. And I've made that my mission. I've made it my mission for you to realize now, if you feel like 20-year-old Brandon, who was full of those doubts, insecurities, I want you to realize that what you have now are opportunities to grow from. And I'm gonna show you exactly how, with a step-by-step. The first thing you need to do is you need to always make sure you are in a high frequency state. A high frequency state, understand, is when you feel I want you to think about the times that you are proud, the times that you've had a good experience, the time that you genuinely feel amazing. That is a high frequency state. When you're in that state, your frequency is what you frequently see. You see opportunities, you feel amazing, you feel on top of the world, you feel like you can do anything. But the thing is, most of the time, we live, or I used to live, in a low frequency state where I used to feel in shame, in doubt, of guilt, regret. Whenever you feel these emotions, you live in a low frequency state, and everything around you, it seems like a problem. Everything around you seems negative. If you constantly think negative, you create negative shit. If you constantly think positive, you create positive shit. That's why everyone is so focused on how do I do this? How do I make money? How do I get followers? It's not the how. It will always be the who. That's why you have to elevate yourself in a high frequency state. How do you do that? I'm going to give you a step by step. You need to chase a feeling. And when you chase a feeling, you need to chase a feeling of peace, the feeling of love. Most of the time, people fall into the emotions and listen to that emotion. The feeling that you have to chase is the feeling of love, of happiness, of joy. When you feel that, I want you to remember that feeling. Music helps you elevate to that frequency. That's why music is super important. And this is something I didn't understand back then. Before, I would spend hours listening to music in my anxiety. I remember I used to spend hours just listening to XXXTentacion. And what happens when you listen to sad music? You feel like you can relate to that music, and you now submerge yourself into that sadness. So guess what? It feels 10x, because now you feel comfortable in your sadness, because you feel like you can understand this is your reality. What happens when you listen to happy music? You feel happier, you feel in a good mood, you feel like you can speak to anyone. That's why I watch your music. Now, how do you elevate to a high frequency state? You need to make sure you control the controllables, because the biggest problem is when we have expectations. Expectations is when you remove your thoughts of the uncontrollables. Understand that expectations now create room for something to not go that way and affect the way that you feel. Remember, you are trying to protect this peace, because at the times when you think positive and everything in front of you is positive, when something negative happens, you view it as something positive. There'll be days when I used to have to train, I used to say to myself, oh, I have to train, I have to go to work, I have to do this. My friend, I get to work. My friend, I get to train. My friend, I get to do so many things. Now, when you see it from that point, then you can only see of what you have and what can be taken. If you see it from a point of, oh, I have to, you see it from a point of problems and negativity. And that's where you end up feeling negative. And everything that you do will be negative. This is just cause and effect. So how do you control the controllables? The first thing you need to do is understand what is your desired outcome and focus on one. And this one, as of now, should be becoming your best version. And going back to you not knowing where to start, I want you to imagine a house. You have this house and you have broken doors, broken windows, broken table. And you get so overwhelmed by how many broken things there are that they just remain broken. And then you start looking at everyone else's houses and they're like, they have a nice house, they have, glass cabinets, they have everything perfect. But that is not your house. So focus on building your house, because as great as other people's houses are, your house is still a mess and you live inside your house. And if you want people to come and enjoy your house, well, you need to have a good house. So what do? Logical, right? You start off with one thing. You do that the same with yourself. Remember that person I told you, that person who you admire their qualities. So work towards it. And how do you work towards it? The same way I have calluses on my hands, which represent repetition, which represents going through physical strenuous exercise. You do that the same mentally with that problem, which now turns into an opportunity. Well, you lack confidence. Well, guess what? That means that you need to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. So whenever you go out there and your conscience tells you, all right, I'm scared, your conscience is really telling you, go ahead and do it. Whenever you're scared, that is even more reason when you need to do it. The second you think between stimulus and response is what you have to do. And in this space, that's when we start to think. And what we are actually thinking is we're trying to negotiate our way out of doing the things that we're meant to do. This is our biggest enemy. That's why we have to shorten the time before we think and taking the action. Because once you take the action, you realize, actually, I was scared of the thought of the action, not the action in itself. And this is when, boom, you got a rep in. You don't have a callus yet, but you got a rep. Once you constantly do this, you start forging this character. The same way you start by hitting metal and create this strong sword. The more hits a sword has, the purer it becomes, because you're taking out the impurities. The same way with you, the more repetitions that you do, you take out those self-doubts, you take off that insecurity. Is repetition. And that's why you have to be in a high frequency state, because there's going to be times where you feel like you're stupid. You're going to feel times that you're going to feel like this is a waste of time. You're going to feel times that you're going to feel worthless. That's because that old way of thinking is trying to invade the way you are now thinking. Think about it. Before, you never used to see it as a problem. Now, the old way of thinking is now a problem. So you have to protect it. Whenever you feel in that state of mind, what do? I go straight into action. Action is the killer of fear. Fear is the killer of the mind. Go straight into action. How do you take action? Well, if you don't know what to do in that moment, go into a high strenuous exercise. Whenever you finish that exercise, it clears the mind. It gives you that mental clarity again. And in that moment, you go back to the same situation and now you have a solution. You can't think of a positive solution in a negative state of thinking. Everything will be negative. That's why you have to spend the least amount of time in that negative state of thinking. Regret and shame always brings you to that negative state. That's why you always need to live by the call of your conscience. Your conscience will tell you to do the most uncomfortable thing, but guess what? There's a reward out of it. It takes you to that desired outcome that you want. And whenever you don't listen to it, it causes regret. And regret brings that low frequency state, making everything negative and taking you back to where you want to be. Remember, right now, where you are now, if you're watching this video and if you made it this far, you are here. The person you are is here, the person you want to become is here, and you're right in the middle. Every time you don't listen to your conscience and you live in regret, you get closer to who you don't want to be. Every time you do the uncomfortable, you get closer to who you want to be. So you have to always make sure you choose that uncomfortable. Because remember, life is a journey, it's not a destination. You don't just become this person. You become this person by choosing with the actions that you do daily. Your actions confirm. That's why discipline is a daily choice. It's not something that you do once and you gain forever. Everything is rent. You have to pay your rent for you to keep a strong body. You have to pay your rent to make sure that you stay this confident person. And that's why everything that you do, you have to be aware and make sure you're in a positive state of mind. So with that being said, there's a lot of things that I wanted to touch, but this video is 12 minutes long. I hope that you guys take something from this. I am becoming the person my younger self needed, and I want you to listen to what I just said and take action. With that being said, I am going to finish my coffee. If you're not already, drop me a DM on Instagram if you have any issues. And love you guys. Make sure you subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and just put in the comment section below your biggest reflection or takeaway from this video. And if it's been of any help, love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.